welcome back to Random Film. Today I am bringing you a review and an interview of the new film, Our Happy Place. So before I get into all that kind of stuff, just wanted to mention, because obviously it's a different backdrop and all that kind of stuff, I'm recording this at the place where I work, where I teach, hence the awful camera. I've already recorded this once on a gimbal and the gimbal died on me and it basically dropped my phone. So I'm doing it without, but we should be okay. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a synopsis of the film, Our Happy Place. I'm then going to interview Paul Bickel and Raya Miles, the producers and the filmmakers around the film. And then I'm going to give you a review, just a short review of the film and where you can sort of catch up with it and all that kind of stuff. So, synopsis of the film then. So, Raya, a lonely woman caring for her bedridden husband, is haunted by terrifying nightmares. She wakes up each morning in the forest, falling deeper into freshly dug graves beneath her. As supernatural forces torment her and the line between dream and reality collapses, she unearths a horrifying secret buried beneath the woods and herself. The film was written and shot during the pandemic, so the COVID pandemic. Working around quarantine limitations, Bickel and Miles filmed everything locally to their home outside of LA and later expanded production once restrictions had eased to include two further cast members on set. The claustrophobia of being stuck inside during quarantine had a clear influence on the film's camera work. Our Happy Place stars Raya Miles and Paul Bickel in their feature acting debuts. Tracy Toms and Eugene Bird filling out the supporting cast. Our Happy Place was written and directed by Paul Bickel, and it is also Paul's feature directing debut. Here is a clip or a trailer from the film. Following that is my interview and then my review of Our Happy Place.
I think it looks cute, actually. I like it.
These are my presents.
And this is mine.
We have a bit of an equity issue.
Yeah. Charlie Brown. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just woke up.
Fabulous look.
I miss communicating with you. And I don't feel like I'm living anymore. This isn't our life, is it?
I've been waking up in the woods.
What?
There's something wrong. With me, with this house.
Mama, you are scaring the hell out of me.
I feel like you're killing me.
You don't have to worry about me anymore. Everything's gonna be okay.
Speaking to you both then, so we're in 2020, COVID's time, everything shuts down, you're in a bubble. How does this idea begin to manifest then between yourselves?
Oh man. So we have this house in Big Bear that it's our escape. We work in LA and Big Bear is about 2 hours away. So we use it as an escape. And I was thinking, oh man, it'd be so much fun to do a film up here, but I'm there and all I want to do is nothing. I just want to relax and decompress.
It's our vacation place.
And then COVID happened, tragedy around the world, and it was going to be remember the 2-week lockdown? It was just going to be 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, I can handle 2 weeks. And then 2 months, I thought, oh, I can't just waste this time. I need to make something. And fortunately, we were walking along in the woods, and I thought, what would happen if you woke up here every day and you didn't know how you got here and you didn't know your way home? And from there, we developed a story, and we started writing it. I thought, well, 2 months, I better get this going fast. I don't have enough time to write it and to produce
Wait
it
to film, yeah.
in 2 months. So we started shooting along the way because I knew the scenes where we were starting, I knew some middle scenes, and I knew where we were going to land. And I don't recommend shooting a film without a script completely, but we had for the
I'll
things
pass it on to the students.
Yeah, do not do that. Absolutely do not do that. But we knew where we were going to go throughout, and so I will say that the conversations were not ad lib.
No, I mean, as we went along, he would write like the pages for the day.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
And
But descriptors I didn't need, like a wood setting or house setting. I didn't need any of
yeah,
that.
the typical things that you would be sharing with somebody, a whole production crew, he
Yeah.
didn't have to do it that way. He
Because
could write the script just based
Literally
on
you two.
this
Yeah.
is
because
what
it
we
was
need
just
to
us.
do.
This is the production crew right here. This is it.
Well, and even when we would send sides to Tracy and Eugene in Los Angeles for their shots
Mhm.
on their end, it would just be like, here's the basic dialogue we have to hit. But often, like, they joke at any question Q&A that like they don't know what's going on. They're just like, okay, I'm answering the phone. We're on, you know.
We're
And
doing it. This
do
is
the
good.
thing. Tracy always tells the story how we would do this thing where we would give a real call and go, okay, the next call is going to be where action. Like,
Right.
just imagine it's like it's happening now.
Mm.
And then we would do the FaceTime call
Yeah.
with her.
Because I was going to ask about that actually, probably much later on. But in terms of the FaceTime call, was that, could you record the actual FaceTime call or was that
Yes.
footage? Oh, right. Okay. So it
We were
works.
recording
Yeah.
over the shoulder.
Yeah.
And then I would often have to, we would redo the scene from my point of view.
Mhm.
And then at first we had contemplated, oh, should we set up a friend because they had their own pod going at Tracy's
Yes.
place.
Oh, they
Maybe-
wanted to. That
And they
was
were like, oh, that's right.
yeah.
They
they
said,
wanted
should we set up a camera on our end?
Mhm.
And Paul was like, actually, we're dealing with a kind of perspective and a point of view. And if we have you real in the house and not just in Raya's FaceTime,
Mhm.
then that doesn't work with the sort of
Yeah.
surreal timeline flexibility that we
Yeah.
needed for the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It adds the claustrophobia to it though, I think, as well,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I was in a pod with my family and we got so used to just making FaceTime calls to
Mhm.
parents that we'd see and relatives and things like that. So it
Yeah.
sort of puts you in that moment because there was a point at the beginning of the film where I was kind of waiting for the first time for someone to say COVID, and it doesn't
Oh, yeah.
happen until about 20, 25 minutes in.
Probably
Mm.
not.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if I was expecting to be baited and switched a little bit. I thought, am I thinking it's COVID, but it's not actually COVID? And then when it was
Right.
mentioned, it's like, all right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was all the sort of iconography of what we expected from lockdown to
Yeah.
sort of ground that essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. There's not too many interior scenes in other places than our
Well,
our
it could
house.
only be her
Right.
experience
Well, I was
other than flashbacks.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
was thinking of what he was saying that moments of noticing that it was COVID. And
Oh, right.
in the grocery store that we have, that's our actual local grocery store. I just asked, "Hey, can I film here?" And he goes, all right. And so we did that.
Sign the papers.
Yeah. But if you notice, there's a partition. I don't know if they did that here. Did they do like a
Yeah,
plexiglass
so we had
partition?
sort of like plexiglass screen
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and as soon as COVID said it was over, they yanked that thing out of there so fast. And because there was a time I wanted to maybe shoot again in there, and it was gone, and they changed the store a little
Yeah.
bit, so I couldn't shoot in there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but,
Because obviously, my next question was going to be: you've previously directed short films. Did you
Yeah.
always intend this to be a feature, or was it just something that grew naturally as you began to do it day by day?
no, it was always intended to be a feature. The short films, if I have any advice to anybody, if you can do a feature, do a feature because that is something someone can sell. Shorts are great if you want to practice, if you want to figure out the camera, figure out, blocking, figure out, story and script. If you can do a short film that has a beginning, middle, and end, in a reasonable amount of time, that's a great study, but it's not going to do much for you. I have had distribution deals for my short films. They make, a few $1,000 a year, but that's it. You're not going to make your money back from
Right.
that. So do a feature if you can.
Yeah. So not only written and directed by yourself, Paul,
Mhm.
but also both of your feature acting debuts.
Yeah.
So a question more for Raya at this point. How
Mhm.
did this differ from the things that you've done in the past?
Well, so I've been in a couple of his shorts.
Mhm.
I think one of them you wouldn't be able to see because he never actually put it up. It's something that was sort of incomplete. It was
Okay.
really cool though.
It was a cool
We
short.
just never finished it.
She's
Um,
she's the serial killer in that
But
one.
I basically did like theater growing up and then a few TV roles here and there as an LA native person. But I haven't been pursuing that at all.
Okay.
And in fact, it was Paul and Tracy and Eugene were working on a project down in LA before COVID. They were doing a piece, again, guerrilla filmmaking, like just little by little building this film. And then all of that got cut off. So in an ideal world, in our minds, like Tracy would have been out there doing the film with Paul and it wouldn't have been me. But because of the circumstances, it was like, babe, you're the lead.
There's nobody
You're
else.
writing for us.
Yeah,
And
I
we're
mean-
doing it with ourselves. And I loved it because for me, it's like, oh, good, I get to be the actor.
But she's brilliant in it, though.
You are very, very good in it.
Thank
She was
you.
able to, because we shot over many, many days, because up in Big Bear, being the entire crew, you have to plan for the day, and then if we're shooting outdoors, I want to have an overcast feel. So I had to shoot towards the evening when the sun went over the mountain, but not over the horizon. So that gave us about 40 minutes to an hour of decent filming. And so we shot multiple days. And on a big budget film, you can't do that. Because we had the luxury
filming that light.
Yeah, we had the luxury of time to do it.
It just meant that I was often really, really cold. So
Yes.
there was a lot of like you were kind of shooting with that movie,
Yeah.
especially during the winter season and
to
to get the light in the morning and stuff.
She was in the snow.
But in terms of like the acting part of it, it was so the part was so parallel to what was happening in the world and with both the isolation as well as politically, like there was a lot of room for tapping into a sort of darkness and internalization and betrayal and insanity. So it was an interesting journey, but it was right there for me to tap into.
Yeah, I've never acted before, so that was.
How did you find
I
that?
think it was part as minimalist as possible when it came to dialogue, but you did it. I think you did a great
Oh, it works though.
The character deserved to be,
Yeah.
minimal. Yeah, it was interesting. And someone asked in a Q&A yesterday, they were saying, why did you keep your own names? And I started to think about this. Well, because I'm not an actor, and the suspension of belief, if I called her Rachel, I would be kind of laughing every single time. That's not Rachel, because we've been together for a long time, 25, 28, 29, I don't know, 30 years, whatever. Making up numbers. But yeah, so for me, it had to seem real and feel real. And I think that's what kept me in a real place and kept you in a more of a real place too.
Yeah, thank you for that. So one of the things that I was just going to, again, briefly mention. So in the press notes, it says later expanded production once restrictions eased to include 2 further cast members on set. So were the characters always written in for Tracy and Eugene? So,
Yes.
When
the end was fully fleshed out from the beginning intention. So we always knew that had to be this faith.
The reveal type.
Quarantine would lift enough to get people together.
Yeah.
Also, testing began at that time. We thought, okay, we can all get tested, and they can come up if they need.
You could then form a new bubble.
Yeah.
Because
you're right. Because it wasn't like fully lifted. It was still various restrictions.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I think people tend to forget at least it was terrifying when you go to a grocery store and you see, half the people with not listening to any mask mandates, and whether they did any good or not, it's just faith in humanity, say, hey, the word trusting the science, let's trust that we should wear a mask, and there's willy-nilly, the other side saying, I'm not wearing a mask.
But I mean, the least you can do is just follow the rules.
Exactly.
Follow the guidelines.
Whether it did anything or not, we're all humans. Let's respect one another.
Exactly. So in terms of Tracy and Eugene, then, I'm assuming there is some sort of prior friendship or prior collaboration that was going on there. How important was it for you to have those 2 on board, whether they were on set or not, just having them there? So then, because I would imagine that if you're both acting in scenes and you're thinking, oh, this is new to me, were they able for you to sort of just give them a quick call and say, but how would you approach this?
It was also, it helped keep a sort of accountability on our end because they committed to doing it with us. It had that feeling of like, all right, our proper actor friends have committed to this movie and they're putting themselves out there for us. And it really kept us like, okay, we're doing this and we're going to complete it and we're going to build this project. So I think it grounded us in that this is real. It's not just playing around. And it was amazing for me to like, especially like by the time I don't want to say too much because people who would be watching this wouldn't be seeing it. But there's
Possibly.
really fun, like I feel like the dynamic that came out of that was like it builds the levity moments,
Yes.
that are so great with all the tension. Then
Mhm.
you have these moments of levity with them. And that was really fun to
Well,
play with
yeah.
that and acting with Tracy on Skype
To add
or
on to that,
FaceTime.
the levity moments, there was two worlds going on. Their bubble was fun. Our bubble was not so
Right.
much fun. And so I wanted to have that contrast,
Yeah.
going. And, with COVID, we were, well, before COVID, we were trying to do projects, and it's very hard because Tracy works all the time.
And so does
And
Eugene.
so does Eugene. And so with this, they were available.
Yeah, it was like now they were free,
Yeah.
just stuck in their house.
Yeah, stuck
They're
in.
like, yeah, let's
May
put
as
on.
well do something.
Yeah. So I think they're very happy to
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Because just as a side note from me, if you could pass on to Tracy, I think she's incredible. Just
Yeah.
generally anyway. So me and my wife are big 911 fans.
Oh,
So
okay.
I go all the way back to Tracy being in Rent.
Oh, yeah.
Rent is one of my favorite like musicals and movie musicals, and I thought she was absolutely fantastic.
She's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, so I love it when I see her pop up in different things,
Yeah.
In terms of editing, so when I watched the film, I kept thinking to myself, like, I love the flow of it because the shots are so perfectly juxtaposed between one scene and the next. And it sort of allows us to pull in our own emotions in an extremely effective way because we're seeing one scene and then you might assume something and you sort of that assumption gets pulled away from you and it makes you begin to think about what it is that you're seeing, the feelings that you're having at that point, which I think is really effective horror filmmaking and effective filmmaking just anyway.
Oh, thank
So
you.
were there any scenes that perhaps on the way through, and again, you mentioned you sort of doing it day by day, was there anything that you started to shoot and just you thought that doesn't work and you ended up leaving that, I suppose, on the cutting room floor at that point?
Actually, there wasn't anything we
Nothing.
left.
We
Be-
only added.
we only added to it after we started editing. We thought, oh, we need this scene and we need that scene, and to make more of a tangible
Yeah, during the editing
piece.
process, there were a couple of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
little missing
But
pieces in the
but-
first edit
yeah,
that
and
inspired
but we
couple of
had
other
so
scenes.
much time that we were able to really think about what we wanted to film. And because we had so much time, then at the very same time so little time because of the sun going down, so we could not waste a moment of film, on film.
Well, and I
Digital.
think I'm going to give you props real quick.
Okay.
Paul is a very visual person. Like his
Mhm.
whole background is around visual arts and art. He was a sculptor. Like that's the way he thinks. So I think, yeah, there wasn't a single scene that didn't end up in the movie that we shot.
Okay, interesting. But it was that thing of you'd filmed it, you'd put a rough edit together, and then thought, oh, we could
Yeah,
do this.
exactly. I was editing as I went. Yeah.
Yeah, he was cutting things together as he went.
Yeah.
And he did a pass all the way through.
Mhm.
Then we worked with our friend Jim Holdridge, who did a second pass, and he really took his time with
Yeah,
it
he
and
did.
was really thinking about it from the perspective of somebody who wasn't a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because that was a little tricky with the first edit. How much do we know in our heads that
Yeah.
we expect the
Mhm.
audience to get? And so
Yeah.
Jim did a really fantastic job of helping to create the cohesion that a strange audience that's not in our minds to
Mhm.
really get it. And then Paul took it back with David
Yeah.
Ho in post, and they re-edited again as they went through the post-production process.
I do have a lot of expectations with filmmaking. I would hope and expect the audience to try to figure things out as they go along rather than hand everything to everybody.
Yeah.
And there's some things I write, then it's handed to you. That's a completely different script than what we intended to do here. I felt like viewer involvement, it kind of creates, it sounds pretentious, a theater of the mind. You want to
Yeah.
be involved in it, and hopefully you come away with some questions, but at the end, hopefully that they're satisfied with the ending, and they still may have questions, which is exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was points in it where I was thinking like, oh, I wonder what that means. Because I think at first you might sort of view something happening in a scene that is purposely ambiguous and think, oh, that's confusing, but it's not actually confusing. It's allowing you to bring your own interpretation to it, bring your own sort of feelings
Awesome.
to it and things like
Yes.
that. And that
Yeah.
really played off towards the end.
That was really
Because
interesting.
I found myself sort of thinking towards the end again, not necessarily to spoil anything, but it was like, this is more of a film about psychosis rather than anything else, and that sort of the sort of the horror of the mind
Yeah.
in a way, and especially going back to COVID, thinking we were all stuck with our own thoughts,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and we had to deal with all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
I found it really intriguing.
Oh,
And then because the editing you were speaking of, so you mentioned Jim
Don't say too
Holdridge.
much.
yeah.
No, I won't. I won't. I won't. Yeah, you mentioned Jim Holdridge, and then obviously yourself, and then David Ho. Because when it came up in the credits as the sort of the way that you credited each other for editing the film, I did begin to think about what did that relationship look like. So it was that Paul, you'd done a sort of a rough cut essentially, or a first draft.
Yeah.
Sent that to Jim. Jim then did a second one because I do fundamentally agree that sometimes if you are invested in a project, having someone else's eyes on it
Oh,
is so
absolutely.
helpful,
Oh, yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
And then was David brought in from you?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, David Ho, it was, a post-production. He's his own post-production house. He does everything from color correction to editing to, sound, Foley sound, and sound re-recording. And he's quite an amazing person. I couldn't have finished this without him. And we got into it, and we started to do some editing as well.
And it was about like the fine tuning,
Fine-tune,
like literally down to milliseconds. Like that needed to be just that tiny cut shorter.
Right.
And then during your scoring, I mean, when David Hernandez came in to work on the music, they basically were together.
Well, we also re-edited
adjustments as needed.
We edited it again because music has a flow of its own. You can have it in your head, but then once you apply music to it, you think, oh, that's cutting down too sharply there. We need to extend this edit, or we need to cut it a little bit. So it was a very fluid piece. If I had gone to anybody else, if I've done any other post-production house, I couldn't have done this because
they lock the edit, right?
They do. They lock the edit. We opened the edit up 5 or 6 times.
It was a luxury version.
It was.
Doing it with a good friend.
Keep turning that key.
Exactly.
One more time.
I mean, they would sit there like, "Oh God, are we unlocking?"
Yeah, we did.
Are we gonna do it?
Yeah.
Just for that.
Just leave it open at this point. Stop.
No, it's true. We should have done that. But we had a screening in December. Last December at Dances with Films in New York. And so after that, I just want to trim that piece. Oh, there's another piece. Because when you see it with an audience, you get to see the reaction. We got a great reaction.
It was really fun.
Really good. And then we thought, we can be better. It can be better. It can be better. David Ho always says, film is never done. It's just abandoned. And it is true. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
I can open it up tomorrow and change some things.
I forbid it.
Our happy place, the director's cut again.
Yeah, exactly.
One more time.
Again and again.
Yeah. So, because you mentioned David, was it a relative of David's who was also on board, Daniel, with the sound and things like that?
David Hernandez was.
No. Daniel Ho is David's son, Toby. That's his middle name.
Oh, I just think of him as Toby.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's his son. So it was a family affair with that. He was doing footsteps and hand pats
stuff. Yeah.
It's amazing if you don't have that in a film, how your mind misses it. You
Rebreathe everything.
Not everything.
I felt like I breathed
a lot of stuff because we got 90% of everything in camera in the microphone too. And also there's no CGI in this. There's no CGI, everything is in camera. So with all
all the effects.
All practical effects. And again, that I loved when I was doing a little bit of research, Paul, seeing Devil's Carnival on your IMDb.
Oh yeah,
Darren Bousman, big fan, love the song.
Darren's
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I was going to ask you anyway, like, how crucial was your work on props and things like that in helping you do some of the stuff that you did?
Quite useful. I've been doing art department stuff for 25 years, and I'm one of my favorite things to do.
Oh,
yeah, okay, that's more like it. More like it. My first feature film that I ever did was probably before you were born, 1997.
I was born in 1990, so thank you for that compliment.
Oh, there you go. You look so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, you were 7 when my first feature film, and was Rage in Harlem, and shot in Cincinnati, Ohio. But anyway, so doing props. I love rigging things. I love figuring things out. It makes me very happy to make something work in camera and not have to rely on CGI because I think people can see it. CGI, there's no weight to it, there's no consequences. It's now Marvel, if you're listening, I'll do a Marvel film, yes.
If you're
But
gonna come knocking, we're not gonna say no, but
yeah, exactly.
this is
But
better.
it's going to be mostly in camera if we can do it. Yeah.
In terms of a budget, then, because you were working as and when, was it just a case of finding things that maybe not necessarily you had around the house, but using as much as you could do and spending a lot less, or what did?
Well, I never really like to talk about the budget too much because people will, they come away with two different things. They say, "Oh, you spent that much, you spent too much," or "You should have spent more." And then so it's never satisfying to anybody. But and also whatever I bring to the table, that's a cost that, is mine. And
Hmm.
what David brings to the table is a cost that, he's a producer. So, these having the talented people around me that are friends that are doing this, that's all a gigantic cost, but it's not necessarily for
That's
the
not a replicable budget
no, yeah.
in
No, yeah,
the
yeah.
real world.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
but
just in
no,
terms
we
of
did buy something. So we would
Football.
like order things on
Yeah.
Amazon, like the ballistic torso for things.
Yeah,
yeah,
the axe. Yeah.
I just was like nearly for
It's
things.
Amazon
yeah,
delivery drivers like, how many torsos of these guys are gonna
yeah.
be?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, there, so I was spending as we went and yeah, there was money. There was
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
The axe is a bit of an icon of the film. Was that already your axe, or did you buy
That
that
one was my axe. Yeah, I still use it. Not for
just in
evil.
different ways?
Yes, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Uh, Raya, so you took on the leading role, very physical role, very demanding role. Were there anything that you felt a bit, or is that a bit too much physically demanding, or were you just relishing it and just taking everything on board?
I took it in. I didn't mind. I was like down for it, but there was a learning curve in terms of what to bring along to get through it. So a lot of those icy, snowy scenes, I finally understood that we needed to bring like multiple hot water, jugs of hot water. And
Hmm.
it was just a matter of preparing myself and
Right. Okay.
running through forests and stuff. We got moleskin, little tape, like moleskin tape that you can put on the bottom of your feet. So
Right.
things to make the creature, like to make it not quite so painful.
Yes.
That took a few tries before we finally figured out the checklist of things to survive the shoot.
And everything was closed too, so we couldn't.
Yeah, it was a lot of like,
Yeah,
okay, what can I get on
why not?
Amazon?
Yeah. What can
But
we figure this out?
yeah, a lot of it just homemade stuff to
Yeah.
get us through it.
So what final thing, or one of the final things, I was going to pick up on the holistic work that you've both put into the film because it's very evident, and obviously the way that you're speaking about it's extremely evident. This is a passion project between the two of you. But I found myself going through the credits a couple of times just to count where everyone's names were.
Yeah.
So Paul, you're down as writer, producer, director, actor, editor, director of photography, practical visual effects, props, and sound.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Raya, you're down as producer, actor, and makeup, and then the lovely little bit of and everything else that makes a movie go.
Yes.
Was there anything else, any other elements that either you were happy to go, oh, I really don't want to do that. I'm glad someone's here to do that, or things where you're like, I've got to hand this over because otherwise it's just too much for me to take on.
Right.
I mean, the truth is that because we were shooting the majority of it, just the two of us, we really were we had no crew.
Mhm.
And for the longest time, there were no friends yet coming up and joining. So literally sound, lighting, we were lugging everything in backpacks and suitcases from cars and like out into the woods and stuff. So
Through the
for a
snow.
long time, there was no help. But then, when we got to do the scene with Tracy and the friends at the dinner party scene, for example, that was lovely. And then David Ho could actually be there and actually do the real sound. And our friend Damu Malik could actually do the camera work for that scene because we had our friends with us. So when there were opportunities to have friends support because we were together, we did. But the majority of the movie wasn't filmed like that.
Can I give you an example of there's a scene. This is without anybody around. There's a scene where she's outdoors and she's sweeping, and then she walks in, and I'm standing there, and there's a rack focus, but I'm also holding on to something. So I had a focus puller on the side of the camera, and I took a string from the focus puller. There's a stop and start with the focus, looped it down to the floor and to the wall. and I was standing on one foot, and with my other foot, I was pulling focus while standing
So
there. So
ingenious.
that's kind of an example of what it's like
Yeah.
to do filmmaking on your own when you have
Wow.
camera
Yeah.
moves, camera focus.
And then it was literally like slating and then
Yeah.
pressing the sound button, and those things were tricky at the beginning. Like the learning curve for the coordination of all that was really complicated because we had to get like master that checklist of,
Yeah.
do we have the SIM card? Do we have
Yeah.
the battery? Do we have the spare battery?
Yeah.
Because we would go out into the woods. It wasn't
Mhm.
just off the side of the road or
Yeah, the
something.
first,
So
the opening
it's brutal
scene,
when we forgot something.
yeah, the opening scene was about 20-minute ride into the woods, and it was about 25, 30 degrees out. So she had to get it was pretty brutal for her.
Like you
But
don't want somebody
yeah,
to go, oh God,
yeah.
the battery's dead.
Forgot this thing. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the first day we forgot one of the SIM cards, and so we had to come back. But we could shoot. I said, okay, let's shoot without sound, then we'll be fine. And then we came back, and then we forgot batteries. And so then the next day we had to come back out, and that took us about 4 days to get everything really lined
And
up.
that was in truly ice cold puddles, like
Yeah.
the puddle of the water coming from that pond in that
It was-
open shot.
There was ice on
That
it.
was the very first thing we shot, and that was
Yeah.
that was our learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when we got all that footage back and I started putting it together, there was a spot on the sensor. So I had to do it all over again.
Oh, no.
So we were out there many times, many times.
But I'd imagine then when it got to actually filming that dinner party scene, you were a bit like, oh, a
Yeah.
bit of a break this. I'll do
was
this
so
again.
fun.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little better. Yeah. Still was a lot of work because it was just us,
Yeah.
It still wasn't a proper like full crew
Yeah,
and
of course.
sport team and everything, but
Yeah.
So when it came to there were moments where the weather sort of significantly changed. I'm
Mhm.
thinking of a scene where Ray, you wake up and it's snowing.
mhm.
Yeah.
Was that in the same location waiting for the weather, or did you seek out somewhere where you knew snow was going to be?
No, we shot over the course of the full seasons.
2 seasons.
Two
We
seasons.
shot through 2 winters.
That's true,
It
isn't
was
it?
2 winters.
Oh, okay.
Started,
Mhm.
you're right. Wow.
It's 2.
Right, because
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took
It's
some time.
Yeah,
We took
like-
our time with it.
because the first one though would have been like a late spring
Yeah.
snowstorms.
Yeah. We started
Early
when it was
spring.
going into winter.
Because that,
Yeah.
COVID quarantine started.
Mhm.
When did
Yeah.
it start?
And then
in-
through it was like March time it started. Yeah.
Mhm. And we were having snowstorms in that
What-
springtime.
One thing that's interesting about Big Bear, one day it could be sunny, and the next day you could have 3 feet of snow. Actually, there's during the Christmas sequence when she's putting ornaments on, and it's considered a flashback. There's snow, and then the next scene there's no snow. That was one day apart.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
weather can change that fast up there.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
it's Southern California, so it doesn't necessarily stick.
Just
'Cause
has its own
Once it's
ecosystem.
warm again.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys in the film? Like, is it more festivals?
We are screening at Dances with Films in Los Angeles this Wednesday, the 25th at 9 p.m. at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood.
Well said.
Nice.
You. Yeah. Yes. So we'll be there. We're leaving tomorrow from London to go there, and hopefully we can pack the house. But that would be great.
And Tracy and Eugene will be there. And
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. This won't be out in time though, will it, for that?
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty nifty at these things. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully you can.
Because
But
I
then
was
after
I was gonna mention, like, have you got any more UK festivals or anything like that coming up? Anything?
Not
Not
right
that we
now.
know of.
Not right now.
Okay.
It takes a while for through Film Freeway. Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with Film
Yeah.
Freeway.
Yeah. So we never know anything until you made it. So it's
Oh, okay.
yeah. There's no warning. Oh, well, I guess one was.
sometimes a festival will give you like a heads up that you're on
Yeah.
a short list or something.
Right,
But
that's
for the
great.
most part, you find out like maybe a month
Yeah.
beforehand,
But we have just
6
we
weeks.
have distributors that are interested. We're in talks with them, so hopefully we'll be able to get it onto a wider platform where everybody can see it. That's what we're
Yeah,
hoping.
because I was gonna think of and fly a flag for Grimfest. I don't know if you've come across Grimfest.
I don't know Grimfest, but I
So
would like.
Grimfest is a purely horror movie based festival that
Mhm.
takes place in Manchester every October, like over a weekend. And when I was watching your film, I thought I can see this at Grimfest. This is
Really, that would be so great.
I'll
Are we
check it out.
still
I don't know about
Interview
dates.
right
I
now,
don't know
like
about like, because it's October time, so I don't know if there's a deadline or anything like that. But
There
there
probably
has to be
is,
some
yeah.
sort of deadline.
Sometimes
yeah,
lines right up until 2 months before.
yeah. So
So,
it
'cause,
might be worth giving it a look.
yeah, I will absolutely do that because we entered Rain Dance the day before the last deadline,
Mhm.
and we got in, which we're shocked. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason when you enter right
Yeah, the
away or at the end or middle. It
Yeah.
doesn't. I
matters.
don't think there is. So I think if anybody is listening to that, it doesn't seem to matter when you enter. As long as you
Get in within the
Get
deadline.
in.
put the deadline and it's good enough, then we're here.
Yeah.
And I love Rain Dance. It's been a fantastic festival. It's been great. Everybody's so it's one of these festivals where you are celebrated. It is the last vestige of truly independent filmmakers are here, and also with Dances with Films in LA too.
Yeah,
Same way.
they've been great.
Yeah, they've been great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you both. I very
Pleasure
much
talking
enjoyed
to
the
you.
film,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to see what comes next. And hopefully, if you get it in Grimfest,
Yeah,
pop by and I'll see you at Grimfest. So yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you
thank you.
both. Thank you both very much. It's a pleasure to meet you both. And it was
Chat to you,
very,
bud.
very insightful chat. I think there's a lot of things that I'm gonna pull and sort of deliver to my students as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my interview with Raya and Paul. I think you'll all agree, or hopefully you'll all agree, that they were absolutely fantastic company. So listening to them talk about the sort of guerrilla filmmaking style and the way that they managed to just make a film and sort of take it day by day and add different things to the script, add different things to the story, go and film that, and then sort of afterwards then look at it and then be able to go and reshoot some again. Like there's almost, not to sound pretentious, but there's almost beauty in what COVID brought us, because it then brought us a film like this. Um, so obviously, like I mentioned, that Raya is the lead in the film, and Paul for most of the film, Paul is bedridden. Paul's dealing with what we assume is COVID and the sort of effects of COVID, and Raya is very much playing sort of caregiver at that point. And we see basically Raya's normal day, and she's caring for Paul and not necessarily doing anything for herself. And she ends up having conversations with Amy, played by Tracy Toms, over FaceTime. And Amy sort of says to her, like, you need to get out. You need to try and do as much as you can. You need to try and sort of take back your life and do as much as normal. Now, while all this is going on, the issue that Ray is having is that she keeps waking up in woodland, in sort of different positions and different sort of places, and she doesn't necessarily know how she's gotten there. She begins to get concerned, and then slowly but surely, and I kind of allude to this in the interview, it becomes a film about psychosis. It becomes an issue with the horror of the mind and what exactly it is that's going on at that point, um, with Raya personally. And there are elements, I think, through the editing and through the way certain shots are framed and sort of picking up on, I want to say, typical horror conventions, but I don't want to do it a disservice by saying the word typical, because everything that gets used in it is an expectation of the genre, because it is very much a genre piece. But I do think parts of it have been worked ever so slightly and ever so innovatively by Paul and by Raya, in that you're second guessing what it is that you're going to see. You're second guessing certain things that come up. So typicality of, someone being stood behind a person in a horror film, or a jump scare being on the way. Everything has a different meaning than what you would sort of come to expect from a standard horror film, which I found incredibly intriguing and incredibly immersive going through watching the film. It's a relatively short film. It's about an 89-minute runtime, so it's not going to take up too much of anyone's time should you seek this out, or when it is that you can get to go and see it. And as again, like similar to when I spoke to you all about Bleeding at Grimfest and Self Driver, not necessarily Bloodstar, because Bloodstar eventually got a release sort of the day after the festival. But especially again with Our Happy Place, it's one of these films that I feel so lucky and fortunate enough to have an early sort of look at, and especially having the time with Paul and Ray that I did this afternoon. But as well thinking about what it is that's going to happen with this film next, and they were both very taken and sort of infused by the idea of Grimfest. So hopefully we'll see them pop up again at Grimfest. We'll see the film pop up again at Grimfest, and I'll be down there again in October. So hopefully I'll be able to meet them in person, which would be absolutely fantastic. Um, but I think this is a film that ultimately is going to find its place. Where that place is currently is up in the air, but my head goes straight to places like a Shudder, like a stream box, like somewhere where we can get engrossed by this level of immersive horror. In that, immediately for me, it took me right back to COVID times. It took me right back to being in a bubble, being in a pod, being in a small knit community with yourselves in a household. Um, and I think bizarrely, there's a bit of a morbid curiosity, especially for horror related things that take us back to that time and perhaps provide us with an alternative view on what might have been happening for certain people at that time. And it's incredibly interesting. It's an incredibly interesting film. And especially with the way, like I say, with the editing and the shots and the way that the juxtaposition works, and just it playing on that idea of you thinking a certain thing and then it spins it ever so slightly. It's so effective filmmaking. And I can't really wait to see what else they do, because like, we kind of mentioned that it's Paul had made short films, not really acted before. Raya, this was very much Raya's feature debut, and I think that as soon as everyone can sort of get a chance to see it, and follow me on Instagram, and whenever it pops up, I'll be sure to sort of like fly the flag and continue to do that, similar to how I have done with Bleeding. That hopefully you will all see it and you all think the same about Raya's performance. That I think it's a very incredibly physical, demanding performance, and to say that it is her feature acting debut is incredible. It's extremely surprising, and one again that and the film I will continue to fly the flag for. So this is Our Happy Place, like I say, directed and produced by Paul and Raya. Just had its premiere at Sundance. As Raya mentioned, as I sit here and record this now, which is Monday the 23rd, on Wednesday the 25th, it will be screening in Los Angeles at the TCL, which is a fantastic spot for them. And hopefully it will be around in the UK soon for another festival run, if not on streaming services. And I'll let you know when that is and when that comes up. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. We're going to be back very, very soon. It's been a bit of a sporadic year in terms of content and getting things out. I feel like we put some stuff up at the start of the year in terms of top 10 lists and stuff like that. But it's been a very, very busy year in terms of me getting accustomed to my new place of work here at the fantastic UTC Media City UK. But also a lot of different life things that are thrown away, and possibly something that I might end up making a video on fairly soon, should for lack of a better word, a diagnosis come along. Everything's fine though, don't worry. And obviously we had the student centric stuff, so the GCSEs and all that kind of stuff. And I hope everyone who watched those videos and used those videos found them helpful. And I hope that the results that you incredible lot worked towards are gonna pay off in August. But we are planning on bringing some top tens over the summer months, getting some filming in. So thinking about things like top 10 movie monsters, top 10 LGBTQ plus films, top 10 films of the 2010s, which was an incredibly difficult list to do. And then so far it's just me and Ollie, because when Ollie's on, we don't really need anyone else to talk. But we're thinking of doing not just top tens, but doing a top 5 best and worst recasts and remakes. So who were good recasts, who were bad recasts, what were good remakes, what were terrible remakes, and just going down that route. So I'm looking forward to getting those recorded in over summer, and then probably get them released in a sort of timely fashion, one a week. Let's get us to Christmas, and then we'll record some more at that point. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Go and check out Paul and Raya. Go and check out Our Happy Place as soon as you can do. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.
Yeah. First of all, Wallace and Gromit. I had one of the Wrong Trousers.
So good.
It was one of the greatest.
It's the best. Absolutely the best. Did you see the new one, Vengeance Most?
No, I
Not yet.
haven't. I
It's
haven't.
good. It's
Is
I
it
good.
done?
wonder if we can
Yeah.
download it in time for the flight.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
Is it feature?
Yeah. So I think it's on Netflix now, I
Perfect.
think. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the name of it again?
Vengeance Most Foul.
Oh, so it's about birds.
It,
Yeah.
well, it's Feathers McGraw. Feathers McGraw
Oh, okay.
trousers. So yeah, good.
Feathers makes an appearance again. Okay. Wow, I love Wallace and Gromit.